Good afternoon, committee. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Heather Kerner. I am a resident of Canaan, Maine, and I'm here to represent the two hats that I wear professionally. One is that I'm a licensed occupational therapist with a 28-year history working in pediatrics here in the state of Maine. I can tell you that over the course of my career, I had begun to specialize in working with students with dysregulation in schools, presenting with significant behavioral or emotional difficulties. Oftentimes I would be involved in running teacher in-service workshops or trainings about de-escalation strategies and behavior management. And I can tell you that at a high level, one of the first things we teach is to rule out biologic and sleep and other of the most basic human necessities as a cause for sensory or behavioral dysregulation. And on that particular issue, I'm very pleased to support the physician's comments around asking you to weigh the cost of not taking a particular action. Think about all of the professionals that are working with students at a high level who might come at a cost to the school working on some of these issues, and certainly ruling out hunger would be an important one. The other hat that I wear today is that I am founder and CEO of the Good Crust in rural Somerset County, a manufacturing company devoted to sourcing only Maine's own grain for the first commercially available pizza dough, dinner rolls, and other products, and with a social mission to use manufacturing as a platform for workforce development for people with disabilities. In our 4-year startup period, the Good Crust has created 24 jobs, purchased 130,000 pounds of Maine-grown grains, and serves over 100 Maine schools. Because our products are both local and whole grain, and because, let's face it, pizza is a great way to convince healthy eating to youngsters, they are a perfect fit for school nutrition programs in our state. Our company is an example of the interdependent economic impact that School Meals for All has on Maine people. By purchasing the Good Crust, schools not only exceed their benchmarks for whole grain equivalents, but they also support the local economy, directly supporting Maine's 45 grain farmers, millers, and value-added producers like me. The demand for our products creates an opportunity for essential jobs in agricultural manufacturing for underserved populations. Elimination of the School Meals for All program will place an undue burden on schools, and we've heard a lot about that already, made in the farm to institution movement, and would directly impact businesses like mine. With all children able to access school meals without barriers, we hear from school nutrition directors in Rumford, for example, who tell us Good Crust Pizza Day was our single highest lunch day ever. A milestone that serves as a win-win for eaters, school nutrition financials, and Maine's agricultural economy. Every child can choose the school pizza without stigma, exclusion, or shame that they require special eligibility. If this program is not fully funded and supported, school nutritional professionals will again go back to chasing lunch money and paperwork, a burden we have heard already. And we will not have the time to engage in forward momentum that we've gained in the farm-to-school relationships for building healthier menus. Eliminating school lunch eligibility means more kids choose school lunch. It's foundational to the progress that we've made in being serving kids healthy foods, and we can't go backwards. Thank you.
Summarize all.
Yes. Thank you for your consideration in preserving this essential programming.
Thank you. Any questions at this time? None. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Senator Rafferty, Representative Murphy, and members of the Joint Standing Committee on Education and Cultural Affairs. My name is Anna Corson, and I'm the Policy and Program Director with Full Plate. I'm submitting testimony in support of LD 577. I'd like to thank Senator Tipping for his willingness to amend his bill at this critical moment to put protections in place to sustain Maine's landmark School Meals for All policy. Today, you've been hearing the profound and far-reaching impacts of this bipartisan policy. I've been working on this initiative since the beginning, and it's amazing to see how far we've come. I'd like to spend my time sharing a little more about the important role that community eligibility, or CEP, plays in School Meals for All. CEP maximizes federal funding by allowing high-need schools to offer breakfast and lunch to all their students at no charge using federal funds, and it eliminates the need to collect school meal applications every year, reducing the administrative burden on schools and families. So rather than using individual student eligibility to determine the school meal reimbursements, CEP schools are reimbursed based on their percentage of poverty as determined by students' participation in other means-tested programs such as SNAP, TANF, and Medicaid. Currently, about 75% of all schools in Maine are eligible to participate in CEP next school year. This bill would require all schools that are eligible to participate to do so as a condition of receiving state funds for School Meals for All. This is what all the other 8 states that have School Meals for All policy have done to great success. I'd also like to talk a little bit about the proposed federal changes coming. There are proposed cuts to school meals, SNAP, and Medicaid, as you've heard. Congress is working on a budget that will give tax breaks to the wealthiest citizens, paid for by cuts to food assistance and health care. They are veiling these cuts as cost sharing, expecting states to pick up the difference. They're also proposing a 100% household income verification in order to qualify a child for a free or reduced price meal. This would cause undue administrative burden on schools, especially when we have other more efficient and accurate ways to capture household income through direct certification and CEP. Notwithstanding the cuts to SNAP and Medicaid, the proposed changes to school meal funding alone will leave a funding gap of at least $10 million statewide. The good news is you have the ability to act now and make sure Maine kids are still being fed, not if, but when these federal changes happen. Maine can afford the additional money requested here and can fill these federal funding gaps by fixing our inadequate tax code that has benefited the wealthy and left the state consistently unable to adequately fund schools. There are bills with the Taxation Committee, like LD 1089, sponsored by Representative Golick, that would create a surcharge of 4% on income over $1 million. The bill directs the funds that would come from this new surcharge, currently expected to be over $100 million per year, to fund our schools. Adding this revenue stream would not only help guarantee funding for education, but also would free up funds to meet other unmet needs and support initiatives like School Meals for All. Hunger is a policy choice. What scares us more than the impending federal funding shortfall is the erosion of bipartisan support for common sense policies like School Meals for All in our state. Maine kids need all of you, the adults in charge, to come together once again to make sure that no matter what, they are getting the most basic human need met, the right to food, at least while they are learning at school. Please protect School Meals for All by supporting LD 577. And I'd be happy to answer any questions, share more about the exciting community eligibility provision, and I can be available for the work session.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your testimony as well as your willingness to help in terms of the work session. Thanks. No one?
Thank you very much.
Have a good day. Thanks for the work.
Good afternoon, Senator Rafferty, Representative Murphy, and members of the Joint Standing Committee on Education. My name is Shannon Coffin, and I'm the Community Partnerships Officer at Good Shepherd Food Bank. Please vote ought to pass on LD 577, an act to maximize federal funding and protects Maine's universal school meals program. Good Shepherd Food Bank supports pantries in 133 schools across the state. I've provided the list on the bottom of my testimony for your information. School pantries provide food for children to bring home who would otherwise go without outside of their school meals. They also support teachers, school nurses, and other school staff and administration who are often spending their own limited resources on snacks and meals for kids that they know experience hunger. School pantries are one piece of what we call the food security ecosystem, one piece of the puzzle to end hunger in Maine. School meals are another critical piece of that food security ecosystem. We worked hard for years to provide school meals for all, and we cannot allow the current political challenges to reverse these efforts. Community food pantries are another piece of the food security ecosystem. We support over 600 food pantries across the state, including those at schools, at healthcare facilities, at shelters, in the more traditional model you may be familiar with. School meals relieve the demand on school pantries. School meals in school pantries shorten the line at community pantries. The reduction or elimination of universal school meals in Maine will increase the need that we're seeing at all of those community partners during a time period where they are already struggling to keep up with the demand that exists. Thank you for listening to my testimony today, and please vote in favor of LD 577.
Thank you very much. Any questions, folks? Hearing none. Thank
Senator Rafferty, Representative Murphy, and esteemed members of the Joint Standing Committee on Education and Cultural Affairs. My name is Chris Piercy. I'm the School Nutrition Director for the Auburn Public Schools. Today I'm submitting my testimony in support of LD 577, an act to maximize federal funding and support Maine's Universal School Meals Program. And I'd like to thank Senator Tipping for his commitment to school meals in Maine. I've been fortunate to have been a school nutrition director for over 10 years, and I've seen all sorts of examples of the real stigma that persisted around schools' meals. Persisted, that is, until the historic passing of School Meals for All, which has made the cafeteria a level playing field where all students can receive a healthy, complete meal, regardless of their family's financial status, without any fear of shame or recognition, simply because they were hungry and wanted to fill their belly. This now universal understanding that the meals which are provided at no cost in school cafeterias in the state of Maine helps embolden a welcome environment for all. This is a shining example of the current generation of Mainers providing the necessary resources to improve the quality of life in our youngest and most vulnerable population. As a father of two, that's very important to me. With the increase, speaking for myself, with the increase in participation we've seen in Auburn, we've grown our Farm to School program to include integrating 26 local farming businesses into our school meal programming. Over the past 2 years, our local purchases have reinvested over $90,000 back into the Maine economy. And statewide, we are just getting started. Within the state of Maine, there exists a robust food system working at a fever pitch, leaving no stone unturned, doing everything in its power to keep Maine food in Maine. Food processors, food hubs, distributors, slaughterhouses, farms, granaries, and fisheries are all focused on schools and their collective buying power as a key cog in meeting the Maine's ambitious goal of keeping 30% of all food consumed in the state coming from Maine producers. That's from the Maine Climate Action Plan. Schools, with their passionate, creative, and as we proved through the pandemic, resourceful child nutrition staff are the solution to ensuring Maine meets this 30% threshold. School Meals for All is a linchpin in that plan that makes this possibility a reality. LD 577, an act to maximize federal funding and protect Maine's universal school meal programs, is a continuation, a definitive stamp of approval that Maine continues to break the mold if necessary to do what is best for future generations of Mainers. I profoundly support it, and I hope you do too. Thank you all, and I'll answer any questions.
Thank you very much.
I am Colleen Frawley, and I live in Boothbay, and I am going to just read a small bit of testimony from Heidi Stevens, who feeds my teenagers, so when she asked me to do something, I have to do it, right? Because as we have heard, we don't mess around with child nutrition staff when it comes to the idea of any cut to their already really stretched programs. So Heidi wrote a lot about stigma and how that would be impacted by needing to collect forms, which is not really in your control, right? And a lot of these cuts you're hearing about are not in your control. They're coming down from the federal level. But what is in your control is making sure that the state gets ahead and provides more funding than we had originally thought we were going to need. So Heidi said that if cuts to both the federal and state level happen to the program, then this would undo all of the good that it has given our kids. It will cause hardships financially for the families who already struggle to make ends meet. It would raise local taxes, putting more burden on the schools and local budgets, as well as the tax burden to families with and without kids in our schools. Many families live just outside of the pretty complicated USDA financial guidelines and would have to make the choice of letting their kids eat at school or pay household expenses. Participation would drop, denying many children healthy, nutritious food options. Directors would have to spend far too much time collecting the information they need to verify applications, information they likely will never get. Countless letters will be sent only to end up sending that last letter of denial when information is not acquired to verify income. Information many families feel is none of our business. Their kids would either accumulate a large bill that would never get paid or just simply go hungry to save themselves and their families the embarrassment. And I will end there and you can read the rest of her testimony. But I think that's what we're hearing over and over is that if these policies come down, less kids are going to qualify, right? And so that's going to come back to the state. And that's what we're asking for in this bill to get ahead of that in a number of ways.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions? Hearing none, but thank you
Thank
very much for your testimony. Appreciate it.
Good afternoon, Senator Rafferty, Representative Murphy, and esteemed members of the committee. My name is Meg Parkhurst. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of the Saco School Department and a resident of Kennebunk. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I will shorten my comments, though they're available for you. A highlight of some data around food insecurity that has not been shared yet. Approximately 1 in 5 Maine children experience food insecurity, and that's higher than the rate among the general population, which is 1 in 8. So that means that our children are especially at risk of suffering from food insecurity, which this bill would help. Additionally, in Saco alone, in the past 5 years, we've shifted from 1 in 4 economically disadvantaged students to 1 in 3, a pretty substantial increase in a short amount of time. Beyond equity for students, which has already been shared widely by my colleagues, this approach offers practical benefits for our educational system. For school staff, it reduces administrative burden, and most importantly, with that reduction in administrative burden, students enter school on the first day knowing that they will be fed without having to search for or ask their parents to complete a certain form. This amendment wisely requires schools to maximize federal reimbursement opportunities, including the Community Eligibility Provision, CEP. This approach ensures that state funds will supplement rather than replace available federal funds. It creates a more sustainable funding model. It provides the DOE with clear authority to guide schools in optimizing their funds, and it protects taxpayer investments by maximizing those federal dollars. Despite these clear benefits, there is a critical gap in our implementation. Currently, private schools that receive 60% of their funding or more from public sources through sending schools are not required to participate in these universal meals, despite receiving substantial taxpayer support. This does create an inequitable system where students' access to nutrition depends on the school they attend, the town they live in, and the systems through which those schools provide high school education in particular. This extension of universal meals is not merely an administrative concern, but a matter of fundamental fairness. It's essential that all students who receive public funding have equal access to universal school meals. Nutrition should not be determined by school type, income, or completion of paperwork. By passing LD 577's amendments, you will be strengthening a program that ensures no Maine student has to learn while hungry. It sensibly requires schools to maximize federal funding opportunities first and creates a sustainable program for students, families, and taxpayers. I urge you to support LD 77 and help secure the future of universal school meals in Maine. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions? I have one just for clarification for our work session. Just if you could explain. See, it's here. It says currently private schools that receive the 60-40 schools, which we're aware of.
Correct.
They're not required to provide universal meals.
They are not.
They're not. Do you know how many do?
I know that there are some that are participating. I could research that exact number for you. I know Saco sends our students 9 through 12 to Thornton Academy, which is a 60-40 school, and they have elected not to participate in the universal meal program. So it's certainly an issue that our school board is concerned about based upon the fact that once we graduate our 8th graders into that system, families then have an increased cost.
Thank you very much. If we could try to find some of that. Thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none, thanks very much.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to testify regarding the amendment to LD 577. As the Food Service Director of Valley Unified Education Service Center, I'm Melanie Legassi. Our Valley Unified Food Service Service Center, which serves the communities of Madawaska, St. Agatha, Fort Kent, and their surrounding areas. I see firsthand how impactful no-charge school meals have been for our learners. Valley Unified represents 3 school districts in Aroostook County, covering a vast geographical region and serving hundreds of students across rural northern Maine. With access to no-charge meals, both breakfast and lunch participation have increased significantly. Families no longer have to worry about whether their children can afford to eat at school. The students are assured of a healthy, nutritious meal every day. For many of our learners, these school meals are their only or best meals of the day, and having consistent access to them makes a tremendous difference in their health, energy, and ability to focus in class. The benefits of continuing no-charge meals are clear. Students are eating healthier, attendance is improving, and academic performance is on the rise. Just as importantly, these meals create opportunities to strengthen our local cultural economy. We're proud to source food from right here in Aroostook County, working directly with local farmers, producers, and distributors. We are able to incorporate more farm-to-school practices, which not only brings fresher ingredients into our kitchens, but also supports the farmers and ag businesses that are the backbone of our local economy. Because meals are offered at no charge, food service directors are freed from processing free and reduced applications and can instead focus on strengthening our local food system. That means I can spend more time sourcing high-quality products from local partners, purchasing beef from area cattle farms and bringing them to the local slaughterhouse, picking up fresh fish off the pier in Portland through Fishermen Feeding Mainers, and delivering these items to other schools in Aroostook County, working with local honey producers, and even asking farmers to grow specific crops for our menus. By using locally produced products, we're able to return to more scratch cooking, giving us control over sodium, sugar, and processed ingredients. This not only improves the health of our learners, but also ensures our food dollars stay within the local economy, benefiting our farmers, our schools, and our communities. Thank you again for the opportunity to share our experience. I urge you to support this amendment of LD 577, not only for the well-being of our students, but also for the continued strength and sustainability of our Aroostook County agricultural industry.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the committee? I would guess, Melanie, just looking at the district you come from, you may win the award for longest distance traveled.
Yes, it was a long ride.
Reflection on the committee.
My name is Darcy Cook. I live in Laurel, Maine, and I am speaking today on behalf of the Maine Network of Community Food Councils. We are a network of 13 locally focused food councils all throughout the state of Maine that are tackling a variety of food systems issues, including food insecurity, food waste, and supporting local farms and fisheries. And universal school meals affects all those things. Our councils are united by a shared desire to make Maine's food systems more healthy, just, and sustainable for all. And that is why we felt compelled to speak in support of this bill today. We feel that Maine is making important strides in eliminating hunger in our state, and that universal school meals is a cornerstone of that progress. As has already been said, over 100,000 children are guaranteed a nutritious breakfast and lunch because of this program, and none of them are stigmatized any longer. This is far too valuable of a thing to allow to be disrupted by a federal administration composed of people who I feel pretty confident in saying have never experienced hunger a day in their lives. As other people have also said, the state of Maine recognizes food as a fundamental human right, so much so that we've enshrined it in our state constitution. So if we believe that we have a right to food, then we must also recognize that we have a shared responsibility to protect that right for everyone And certainly that applies especially to our children. So I urge you today to pass LD 577 and protect that right for children to eat universal school meals. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions, folks, at this time? Hearing none.
Senator Rafferty, Representative Newton Murphy, and esteemed members of the Education and Cultural Affairs Committee. I'm Robbie Feinberg, the Director of Communications and Government Relations for the Maine School Management Association, testifying on behalf of the legislative committees of the Maine School Boards Association and the Maine School Superintendents Association in strong support of the amended version of LD 577. As you might expect, we've talked with superintendents and school board members a lot over the past few months about the state budget, and during those discussions, we have received two questions far more than any others. Is the state providing 55% education funding, and is there still money for universal school meals? There's a good reason for this. For close to half a decade, school officials have seen with their own eyes how transformative this policy has been for students, families, and classrooms. As you've heard, parents no longer have to worry about packing their kids' lunch each morning. Kids can just pick and choose what they want in the cafeteria line instead of worrying about if they have enough money in their account. This has been transformational, and parents and educators have made it abundantly clear that they do not want to go back. You've already heard the research today about how when more kids are fed, attendance rates go up and more students graduate. Maine's investment in school meals for all is a proven investment in Maine kids' futures, and we urge you to fully support this program. This bill also comes at a critical time for Maine superintendents and school districts. Across the state, school boards are dealing with two overlapping issues: an already challenging local school budget year, combined with uncertainty over the amount of federal funding they'll receive moving forward. Some districts are already being forced to lay off some staff to limit school budget increases. Others are weighing cuts to programming because of budget uncertainty. While LD 577 wouldn't completely solve any of these problems, it would offer school districts and local taxpayers more assurance. It would invest an additional $6 million to fully fund Maine School Meals for All program, and by requiring eligible schools to participate in the community eligibility provision, it would ensure that Maine can maximize the amount of school nutrition funding it receives from the federal government. Nearly as importantly, it would require the DOE to provide schools with guidance and support, helping districts navigate this rapidly changing funding landscape. LD 577 wouldn't fully eliminate the budget uncertainty that so many school boards are feeling at this moment, but it would help to provide some more stability in a program that is vital to tens of thousands of children and families. Your support of LD 577 will help our schools keep their promise of feeding every Maine child, and we urge you to vote off the pass. Thank you for your consideration. I'm happy to take any questions. Also, I have a little bit of information for you, Senator Rafferty, your previous question of Ms. Parkhurst. We think there are 3 60-40 schools that do not provide school meals, but we're happy to get more information for you for work session as well on that.
Thank you. That would be greatly appreciated.
Sure, absolutely.
Save our animals somewhere. Representative Lyman, you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You might be able to help me, if not, for work session. I'm wondering two things. I'm sure this is within the biennial budget, and I know a school board member that says it's like 25 million in this next budget. Do you know if that's correct?
I think it's 58 million over the next 2 years. I don't know necessarily how it breaks out. But.
And is it possible to find out the tax increase related to this fiscal note if, it wasn't to be, it's in this one, but as we move forward, there was testimony that mentioned we would get the money even if it is a burden on the taxpayers. It'd be interested to know what that impact might be.
Yeah, I can talk with folks. It would be, I feel like, several steps to figure out what that would be, but I can talk with folks to see if we could maybe figure that out.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you. Other questions?
Can I just ask a clarifying question, Representative Lorraine? Are you asking for the local tax burden or the statewide?
Either, or both.
Okay, so
Yeah.
not
I mean,
just
no,
for local
I
taxpayers.
want to know because either way, it's the citizens of the state.
Of
that
course,
pay.
yeah,
So
but I just want to clarify what you're asking.
it would be both. If there's an impact for both, it would be both.
I can think about, on the local level, I'm sure we can try to at least
Yep, thank you.
have the scenario. Sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. Senator Rafferty, Representative Murphy, and members of the Joint Standing Committee on Education and Cultural Affairs. My name is Janet Fournier. I am a resident of Brunswick, an interfaith minister, and an advocate for affordable housing and food insecurity. As an elder in my community, I am here to submit my testimony in support of LD 577, an act to maximize federal funding and protect Maine's universal school meals program, understanding that the original bill content has changed. I'd like to thank Senator Tipping for your commitment to school meals in Maine by bringing this bill forward. As the mother of 2 grown children and grandmother to 2 teenagers, School Meals for All, surprisingly, was not on my radar until I became involved through my connections with 2 local nonprofit organizations who support our youth. They have helped me to understand the necessity of this program and how it supports, most importantly, our children, but is also vital to industries here in Maine. While my testimony doesn't provide budget information or first-person experience in the schools of Maine, I have listened to the past hour and a half of testimony, and I have not heard one opponent. While I'm comforted by this, I am simply curious how anyone could argue the need. I grew up in the 60s in a small coastal Massachusetts town. We all knew one another, which folks had and which did not. Many families were transients who lived in rented cottages in the winter and moved to campgrounds in the summer months. I witnessed other kids humiliated as they were turned away in the cafeteria lunch line. Imagine being asked why you couldn't pay for your lunch. Even as a young girl, I knew this was wrong. My first eye-opening experience of the relationship between poverty, lack of proper nutrition, and poor health was in high school. A friend of mine was taken to the nurse's office when her teeth began to fall out, literally, in the classroom. Ruthie went on to live with early onset diabetes, which resulted in blindness, and eventually she died, far too soon. We have come a long way in the 5 decades since my childhood. We have become educated as to the necessity of good nutrition for children, how it affects learning, mental health, and overall health into adulthood. We simply cannot afford to reverse this vehicle for food security. Our future and that of our children and grandchildren depends on us to keep this program alive. The existing evidence suggests that public health system expenditures have a positive return on investment. We know this. The Universal School Meals Program has, since its inception, and should continue to work for the state of Maine. Food is a basic human need, and our children shouldn't be punished at the hands of adults who likely have never personally experienced hunger. They can't vote about the injustice of defunding these programs, but we can, and you can, as the parents and elders of our communities. I strongly urge the committee to support this bill. I'm grateful for your time and commitment to Maine's children. Please advocate on behalf of our children and grandchildren. We owe them our support.
Is there anyone else in the room would like to speak? Next up would be anyone in opposition? Anyone neither for nor against? Anyone's had an opportunity to speak who wants it? We'll close the public hearing on, oh, I'm sorry. You had a question?
Well, I think, I guess I'm asking this question on behalf of some other people, but
You brought it up. I want an answer.
I'm wondering.
This is a clarifying question.
It's a clarifying
for what
question.
section? Good, that's fine.
It's a clarifying question. This bill is for this school, preschool, milk. And I've heard a lot of testimony about the free school lunch
It was
program.
amended at the start of the hearing.
And that amendment made it the global one?
Yeah.
I did not get that.
Maybe it's.
No, I'm saying I didn't get that. I have it here.
Senator Tipping
It was the-
explained that when he started.
Oh.
It should be in your folder. Thank you.